This video is sponsored by Energy Sage. Visit the link in the description to find local, verified solar and heat pump experts in your area, as well as local community solar projects you can join. I don't know about you, but the last few years have kind of blurred together a little, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm now officially middle-aged, or if it's the stresses associated with running a YouTube channel, or indeed if it's just because my perception of time hasn't yet officially recovered from the work-at-home-a-thon that has been COVID-19. All I know is that it's not my kids, because they're now all grown up, something that wasn't true back at the start of COVID, and makes me feel even older. Anyway, we were looking through the calendar this last week and realised that it's now just over 2 years since we had a 15 and a bit kilowatt peak photovoltaic solar panel system put on the roof of our home here in the foothills of the Coast Range in Oregon. Since we spectacularly missed the 2-year anniversary of the panels being switched on, I figured it was about time we fixed that error and gave you some information about things we wished we'd have known when the system was commissioned back in April 2021. In our last video on our solar panel installation and our time since, I gave you 5 reasons that we are glad we went solar, ranging from helping us to prepare for the future through to benefiting from the sizable tax credit that we pocketed at the start of 2022. That was from, obviously, putting the panels on the roof. And I'm still happy for all of those things. But the Nikki of 9 months ago didn't know some of the things we now know about solar and wish that we had known, or at least our specific installation. So let's start by giving you a bit of an update on how the panels are doing, and then I will give you those things that I wish we had known more about and maybe looked into a little more before going solar. First, the update. As of the time of recording this, which is just before the end of July 2023, we have generated an impressive 34.6 megawatt hours of electricity on the roof of our home since the panels have been installed, split between 11.8 in 2021, 14.1 in 2022 and 8.8 megawatt hours so far this year. According to our Enphase system, that's the company which makes our microinverters, we've reduced our electricity carbon dioxide footprint by around 25.1 metric tons. That's about 55,336 pounds for those who prefer freedom units. The system has also estimated that we've generated about $4,500 equivalent of power, which is quite astonishing, especially since our electricity bill is still very high. Yes, I know. We have a huge number of computers here that need to stay on because when we're not actively using them to make videos or using them on the set, the servers in our server room next door continue to do things like backup tasks and the like at night after we're done with work. We also use electric for everything, including water pumps, sewerage and HVAC. Basically, we have no other forms of energy at the house other than electricity. My wife also works from home and has her own office, so it's like a mini office complex here during the day. If we add in car charging for ourselves, our visitors, and the team when they're here, not to mention press cars, it gets kind of expensive. I also know that something a lot of you will want to know the answer to is if there's been any change in electrical output of our solar panels in the first few years, and the answer is, I don't know. I'll admit that our solar panels are a lot dirtier this year than they have been in past years, but if you compare month to month from different years, it's frankly really hard to see any hard and fast trends. In November 2021, for example, we generated just under 400 kilowatt hours of electricity, but in November 2022, we generated 574.2 kilowatt hours. Conversely, January 2023 was terrible for us. We generated just 365.7 kilowatt hours. In the previous January, we generated 528.7 kilowatt hours. Basically, we live in the Pacific Northwest and the weather can be quite varied and pretty unpredictable, especially up here in the mountains in a forested area. We had a really cold winter and a pretty cold spring, but since April, we've been hitting 80 kilowatt hours a day pretty regularly. Our best day this year so far was June 4th, when we managed to net 86.5 kilowatt hours of generated power in a day, which, as it happens, is about as much as we generated on our best day in 2022. And of course, we're past the summer solstice, so we're probably not going to hit that figure this year again. Our electricity bill, has it dropped? In the summer, it definitely has. There's been a significant benefit to generating power at the house, and our electricity bill has been substantially lowered. However, as I've mentioned plenty, we use a lot more power than your average home because we're also an office, and the power we don't generate ourselves is from a green energy tariff and is therefore a little pricier. If we add in a malfunctioning meter from our utility company, which didn't report a bill for a couple of months, we actually had a monster multi-month bill last month that was well over $700. But again, that was for several months, and that was for a home that's also being used as an office during the day. Normally our summer bills are much lower. Think $100 to $200. Our utility system aside, our photovoltaics have been pretty reliable with no issues at all. There was an early bug with the system's reporting, but an over-the-air software update fixed that with nary a problem, and since then, everything's been good. Especially after I replaced the Wi-Fi connection for the solar inverter with a hard-wired drop cable. RJ45 for the win. Next, let's talk about the things that we wish we'd known. But first, a word from today's video sponsor, Energy Sage. It helps you with both solar and heat pump installations. Energy Sage helps homeowners connect with local verified solar installers across the US and now heat pump specialists in select markets who really know their stuff and can help you navigate the process of installing solar panels, help you join a local community solar program, or get a heat pump installed at your house. It was Energy Sage that we used when we had solar panels put on the roof of our home, and our Energy Sage verified installers were professional, knowledgeable, and even put us in touch with an amazing credit union in order to help us finance our solar panels for as low a monthly payment as possible. So follow the links below to sign up for either of Energy Sage's free, no obligation services and get that ball rolling today. If you choose to use an Energy Sage installer for your project, we will get a small referral fee, so you will be helping the channel out too. By now, you may be feeling a little confused because so far my report on our solar panels is pretty rosy, and to be honest, our experience thus far has been really good. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we wish we had known when we had the system installed. And honestly, the first one is cleaning. While solar panels don't need a lot of cleaning, some experts even advise against it, 2 years on our roof has made our solar panels pretty dirty. Weeks of dry, dusty weather in the summer and then heavy winter snow has taken its toll, not to mention tree sap. And while the panels don't show any noticeable drop in output, it's certainly not making the roof look very good. So initially, we reached out to a local company that said it specialises in solar panel and window cleaning, and it quoted us to have everything cleaned. The price? $1,000 to clean both the panels and the windows, which obviously we declined and then chuckled nervously about. Obviously. So now we are on the hunt for a long pole with a squeegee on one side and a blade on the other that's long enough to reach our solar panels, maybe with a pipe up the middle, so we can get fresh water to the panels. I think the best way is that we're going to need to get up onto the roof of the house to clean the upper solar panels on the second floor, but the first floor solar panels should be really easy to clean with very minimal equipment, so watch this space because we might make a video about it. The next thing I wish I had known more about was integrations and communications between the various electrical systems we've got here. If you don't know, we have a Ford home integration system which is currently not automatically working and is awaiting an over-the-air software update in order for that to be the case. We've also got a span panel, which again is not working for some reason and isn't compatible with the Ford system at the current time. And we're waiting for an engineer to come out and look at that. And then we've got our microinverters for our solar panel, which went on first. Because we chose microinverters, which by the way are the correct choice for a solar system that has a mixed level of shade throughout the day in order to optimize the available power you can generate, we can't actually tie our solar panels in with our Ford home integration system because that requires a string inverter. So the only way we could do that would be to rip out the microinverters and then install a string inverter, which is very much not happening because that would also cost a lot of money and it would lose us some significant generation capabilities, especially in the afternoon when the sun dips behind some taller trees that aren't on our land. Had we known how difficult it would have been to get the solar panels, the Ford home integration system, and the span panel all playing nicely, I think we would have made some different choices about our solar setup and also the systems we put on the house. Eventually, we will get the Ford system working as a home backup system, but because of those microinverters we have, they are IQ7s, not the fancier IQ8s, which came out just as our panels were going on. We are not able to use our solar panels in grid islanding mode when there's a power cut because our microinverters don't have the smarts to turn off panels in response to demand, which is something that the IQ8s can, at least theoretically, when paired with the right equipment. This all boils down to the fact that when there is a power cut, you can't have solar panels producing full power if there's nowhere to send that energy because that could damage your home's electrical system and do much worse. So while we do have a sort of home backup system, I actually coaxed the Ford system into working for 3 hours last week and earned $20 during a peak time energy event at my local utility company. But when that backup system kicked in, the solar panels went offline. And honestly, while that's not a big issue for us right now, I think were we to do this again, we might be tempted to have a smaller array and a battery backup system, or at least some way of running the solar panels during a power cut. It would have been far more resilient. Right now, there are solutions that could have worked, but honestly, it's a minefield, and there's something of a lack of decent interoperability between various energy storage and solar systems on the market, and then electric vehicle charging stations, and you're basically rolling a D20 if you plan a system in pieces. You're essentially hoping that all of the things that you want to purchase will work with the new hotness that you're ultimately going to want to add. Finally, I wish that we had come up with a better placement for our cabling and inverter control box. Right now, that box for our solar system lives on our garage wall next to our main breaker panel, inside the garage. But had we spent some time planning out where things were going to be going, I think we would have used less of the inside wall of the garage, which also happens to be my wife's woodworking shop. And that means she doesn't have as much space in the shop as she would have had. All of these little niggles aside, however, I think we're pretty happy with our solar installation. Some more forethought and planning would have made everything a little easier, including planning for some space around the panels to improve access to cleaning. But right now, what we've got is a great way to rely less on the grid during the daytime, a way to slash our electricity bills by a significant amount. And I've been able to use a third-party integration for Home Assistant to make it easy to both track our solar production as well as modulate the EV charging based on how much solar we're generating and how green the external electricity grid is. What we've got right now is frankly an A-grade system. I just wish that we had planned a little more to get a star. But that's on me, nobody else. And on that note, we are done with today's video, and thanks again to Energy Sage for sponsoring us. Follow the link below to find out how easy it could be to get verified, trustworthy solar experts helping you make the step towards energy self-sufficiency, either through solar on the roof of your home, through a local community solar project, or in fact by installing a heat pump. If you have comments, drop us a polite note below in the Discord chat room on Mastodon, or if you are a Patreon supporter, in the comments there. You can also reach out to us on our new PeerTube channel page. We'll link to it below. If you want more, subscribe, hit the bell, and follow the links to regularly support us at the YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription. You'll also find links below to our Bitcoin, Ko-fi, and Swag store, as well as those aforementioned Mastodon and PeerTube servers. Scrolling on my right is the list of amazing charged up supporters, and shout-outs go out to our V2G Patreon supporters. They are Alan Tupper, Andrew Martin, Bennett Elder, Brophy Wolf, Chris Maxwell, Cyprian Laplace, Dan Blair, Gordon C, Hey Esker, John Tramal, Kyle Fox, Mark Eggleton, Peter Dillinger, Regine Fellows, Sean Tucker, Stefan Framgen, Stephen Williams, Tesla in the Gong, Paul Bricknell, Tony Moss, Carl Hodgson, Chris Asentar, Denny Hyde, Lance Schlal, Linda Irish, Mike Weeder, and Paul Nelson. And finally, big thanks to our off-grid supporters, Paul Conway, Kevin Burbridge, Stephen O'Donoghue, Jim Maness, Robert Flannery, Aaron Hahn, Ellery Hensley, Rory Litwin, JP Fagerback, Dave Kitchen, Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, Chris and Michael Johnson, Claywitt, CPU Freak 101, Eric Knack, Joe Bresney, John Henderson, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobnak, Nigel S, Reggie Watts, Will Graylin, and of course, Ian. Don't forget that we make videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday on this channel. Plus, over on a Sunday, you will find us on Take 2 with our Sunday musing and a chicken and garden update. And with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon. And as always, keep evolving. So the high school I went to in the UK was so small it didn't have a sixth form. So my final 2 years of high school, I had to go to a different school that was much, much bigger in order to attend the sixth form there. And they had a really good music department, and I was one of the head students at the school, and I was given a key to the music department. And one of my jobs every morning was to go in and turn the coffee machine on. And that was always great fun. And I really loved going to that music department. And of the 3 music teachers there, I found out just last weekend, in fact, that one of the teachers recently passed away, Ian Lord. So he unfortunately passed away, and I only found out about it recently. But it brought back a memory of Classic Max, which is why I'm telling you this story right now, and some of the fun that I used to get up to when I was 17, 18 and doing 2.5 A-levels and basically spending all my time for 2 years drinking coffee and playing computer games in the music room, because the music A-level and the music tech A-level were easy for me, so I didn't ever actually have to do any work for them. It was only my physics that I had to work at. So I used to play games a lot on Classic Macs, obviously Macs much older than the one behind me. But one of the things about the Classic Mac OS was that it had a folder called Startup Items and Shutdown Items. And we had, of the 3 music department teachers, one of them was really unpopular and nobody liked him. Now, I was a bit of a goody two-shoes, but I was also a nerd. And so with one of the other A-level students, I can't believe I'm telling you this now, we wrote a very derogatory rhyme, which I'm not going to repeat to you now, and we wrote it in simple text, which was the Mac, basically the text editor. And the operating system at the time had the ability to play, to sing, to speak the words using a particular voice. And we chose In the Hall of the Mountain King. And so we chose that piece of music, and we wrote this really nasty. It was really nasty. I don't think I could communicate how terrible the words were. If I'm looking guilty, it's because I remember the lyrics and I'm not sharing them with you. But I basically wrote this this text file and programmed it so that it would automatically start speaking or singing the text to this song every time the computer turned on. And you could hide the icons in the startup icon by giving it an icon that had nothing, basically a completely transparent icon. And then if you put a full stop or a period in front of the file name, it would make it invisible to anybody looking for it. And I wrote this little script that would automatically play this song every time the computer turned on. And then when you turn the computer off, if someone had figured out where this little script was, it would copy the script back into the startup items folder. And my head of department figured out that it was me. And he came up to me one night when it was a parent-teacher night and they'd got the computers on. And he came up to me and he said, I know it was you. I think that was funny, but the fun has to stop now. It's about as close as I ever got to getting in trouble when I was in sixth form.